Holy remote control robots. This is Flight Check Season 2, Episode 3. We're back once again talking FlyQuest in every single possible capacity. We're hyped to bring you yet another episode of high-quality content. Speaking of highs, there were no highs this week. Bit of a downer week overall for FlyQuest League of Legends fans, and
we got the dub for Kadoran.
We got that. But also an 0-2 in lock-in and an 0-4 start in academy. But hey, that means there is lots to take away and discuss, and I think we've got some good topics to cover on tonight's show. My name is Sandy Toes, and to my left and my extra left are my fellow hosts Nox War and Curly Double Q. Nox, bit of a rough FlyQuest week, but what I really want to know is what's the spiciest thing you've heard so far in some of these, comms you've been reffing?
Oh, in the comms I've been reffing? Oh, hold on.
I think you mentioned something in our Discord about BMing a volley bear pick or something like that.
Yes, so funnily, and this match is still going on, by the way. No team is playing Radiance, or actually now Dignitas Radiance. I don't know if you guys saw that announcement.
Yes, did see that.
Picked them up. So I was listening to the comms of no team, and basically after the game ended, they were just roasting the crap out of the volley bear pick. Like, this guy's a fucking idiot. Like, why would you ever pick this into your neck? And so on. They just kept going and going and going, and I was just like, oh my god. It was pretty spicy. I loved it a lot.
That is definitely some spice. Curly.
No, don't go spreading that anywhere, though, either.
No, don't worry. We just broadcast it on the internet for all to hear.
It's a good thing we're not huge. It's fine.
Yeah. Curly, I think you are muted, my friend.
Oh, yeah, you were definitely muted.
Damn, I muted it myself so my keyboard wouldn't be loud, and then I forgot to mute myself.
That's what happens. Right. What I was going to say, Curly, was did you have any spicy solo queue experiences this past week?
Woo! Oh, man.
And this could be League or Valorant. I mean,
Well, so actually, just today, I don't know if you saw on my Twitter between the show and my stream today, but after dinner, I had one more ranked match that I played just to kill some time. I was on Nami, and I was like, I died a few times because I got caught out in some weird situations against a Yumi. Jinx combo, but my Zeri was getting a lot of CS, but then it gets to late game, and I saw that my Mundo was 0-6 against a Nasus, and this Nasus was unkillable for a long time, and late game straight up unkillable. You could get all of us attacking him at once, but the Yumi would sit on him, and I definitely disconnected.
Nope, did not. Something just froze. Weird.
Okay, Twitch just froze.
We're good. Keep going.
Okay, but anyway, now here's the kicker, right? By the end of the match, it's 40 plus minutes or whatever. It's 22 kills on the Nasus, probably no more than 3 deaths. But for some reason, they've made no headway on our base, even with Baron and full Mountain Drake. But we have their side inhibs down, and they're on one Nexus turret. And even with 3 of us down, the Echo just TPs to a wave crashing topside, and we win. While they're busy 5v1ing my Zeri. We should not have won that. Thank God for bronze macro. So that was my spicy experience of the last week. And then we got Nox War just chilling here. He's the only one that can move.
Nox War's at least we can hear. Audio is really all you need. True. For a podcast anyway.
I just love the face that I'm frozen on, and you just look very
Yeah. That's great.
You both are super focused, and I'm just it's almost like you guys are frozen in time, and I can just do whatever I want.
Yeah, you just going. Well, we'll keep on rolling with the show, and we'll get the cameras fixed. Luckily, look, all you need to do is hear what we're talking about. You don't need to see us while we're doing it. Mm-hmm. Quick reminder. We usually do not call out subs on the show just to keep that discussion flow going, but we will read them off at the end. We've got some fancy sub badges for you with different iterations of the Flight Check logo. Very thankful for all the support shown to us. And if you can't catch all of the show tonight, the VOD will be available here and on YouTube on our channel, Flight Check Podcast. And the audio version will be on your favorite listening platforms as well. So, let's get into the weekend's action. Before we get to the FlyQuest Team Liquid matchup, Curly, I believe there was one other fan podcast out there this weekend that also suffered an 0-2 defeat, except this one was a bit more surprising. What can you tell me about 100 Thieves versus Dignitas? What happened there?
Oh, wow. What can I tell you about 100 Thieves versus Dignitas? Well, not nearly as much as Cole and Jordan are going to be telling you in about hour and a half, 2 hours. But what I can tell you is I was very, very surprised when I tuned in and I was like watching, like I saw the score 0-1 on 100 Thieves. I was like, what is this? And then I watched the second match and I was like, what is this? Because let me tell you, 100 Thieves, just from what I watched in that second match, they didn't look like the 100 Thieves that we faced, because even though they looked weaker than when we beat them and a lot less coordinated, Abbedagge did not look the best, surprisingly so. And like overall, it was very strange. And Dignitas, this team that I personally have not expected to get much, was able to just run with it, abuse those weak points, and just really ultimately play better League.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know what was going on in the comms beforehand, but 100 Thieves got a lot of fixing to do. And like I said, Cole and Jordan later tonight will definitely be going more in depth than I was just able to, because they're all about 100 Thieves. Here we've got to focus on FlyQuest.
Focus on FlyQuest and also apparently on my Spotify homepage. Nox.
Hey, that's a good band, though.
It is. Nox, so a couple other matchups this weekend. So we had Cloud9 CLG and EG versus Golden Guardians. What were your takeaways from those? I mean, the EG one, I think especially, bit of a smash overall.
Yeah, Danny is cracked. There's no other way to put that, basically. As well as inspired. They're both just absolutely insane. Jojo Pyun still needs to improve in some areas, but he's more than enough to handle his own self, like, throughout the game. He's fine. But over time, as he continues to get better, this kid's going to be scary, right? So, just EG, they're the whole package right now. It's Impact in the Zoomers, and the Zoomers are pulling him to victory right now. So this EG team's going to be very, very fun to watch. Against Golden Guardians, there really wasn't much outside of Ryola was kind of a bright spot, honestly. Like, I was pretty happy with how he played, but outside of that, I didn't really have anything of note for Golden Guardians. I did not, unfortunately, get to watch C9 versus CLG. I did, however, predict the correct scoreline for it. That CLG would take a game off of them. And you know what? Good for them. I think, honestly, over the course of the split, they're probably going to ramp up a little more, and they'll be a legitimate threat contending for 6th place, I think.
I have to say, I completely missed that FlyQuest pick'ems were back on for lock-in tournament.
Yeah, I noticed that, Sandy. Where are you at?
And I completely missed doing every single one. I don't know how that happened. Rest assured, once the regular season starts, I will be back at it. I mean, I could do it for semifinals and finals, but it just feels like I would be trying to catch up to an unattainable goal. So we'll see if I submit any predictions this weekend.
So by default, you're in last place for the Flight Check pick'ems. And that makes
you can't be in last place if you never entered to begin with. So I think it's between the two of you. That's my logic there. All right, well, let's get to the gist of the matter. FlyQuest Team Liquid, the quarterfinal review, Game 1. This game was like a 30-minute game, I would say. And starting with the comps, actually starting with a couple different things. We're on red side, and the
Yeah.
big thing for this game, Bradley subbed in for Bwipo, and it's the long foretold Hansama Core JJ bot lane that everyone has been kind of worried about. And, in my opinion, and we'll get to this later, they absolutely smashed this game. It was frankly disgusting. But we'll go through kind of picks and bans real quick. I've got them here. They take Corki first. We get Jinx, Lee Sin, and the Orianna, so we already are saying, like, all right, we're going to go for some scaling with a little bit of looking for early opportunities. We like seeing Jose on the Lee Sin. We know that's a good champ for him. It's not the Xin Zhao. I feel better about him on Lee Sin. And then in the second phase of bans, we hard target Hans with Aphelios and Varus bans to take those away from the Thresh. He goes for the Callista, and they give Bradley the blind pick Akali, and we take Sion into it. And we also got Rakan for Aphromu, and that basically rounds it out. So a scaling bot lane and mid lane. Would you call Sion like a weak side top, or
yeah, I would.
In this case, yeah. So you've got a weak side top, scaling bot and mid, and then you've got the Lee Sin to kind of look for some early plays, get that scaling a little bit of a jump start, something like that. I've got a lot of notes on these games.
I also have a lot of notes.
Excellent.
Yep.
We should compare notes. And you know what? That's actually why we have this show, to compare notes on these games. Let's start. I want to hear your notes, actually, Nox. Like, what were some things that really stood out to you in this match?
So I really want to hit the pick and ban phase first. Really.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just because a lot of this I felt came down to pick and ban. Don't get me wrong, there were a lot of errors made in the game itself, but I think we really just kind of got kicked a little bit in draft.
Absolutely.
So our bans are fine. I was not happy with the red side R2 Lee Sin pick when you pick Jinx R1. Reason being is I really, really think Jinx and like Aphelios, both of those carries, have to be paired with a Thresh. They have to be. If you're letting the Thresh go through, which it ended up being picked up by Core JJ to deny it from us, it just doesn't give Johnson a lot of options to get into the fight and then get out safely. Right? Mm-hmm. So I was not happy with the fact that Lee Sin was picked, because the thing is, if Santorin ends up picking the Lee Sin, then we go on to Xin Zhao, and I know we're not huge fans of the Xin Zhao, but honestly,
it's not a bad pick.
It's not a bad pick. It's not a bad pick right now. I would rather deal with having the Xin Zhao than handing over the Thresh to Core JJ, right? So that kind of really hurt me a lot, was seeing us not prioritize the Thresh when I think it's very, very vital to have with the Jinx. Granted, I'm not a professional analyst or anything, but that's just my opinion. I think you have to have those two paired together. Orianna into the Corki felt really meh, especially when we had Victor still up. Victor is super strong in the meta. Just overall, I think that should have been a higher priority than Orianna of all things. I mean, I get it kind of works with the Lee Sin hopping in, but that's about all you had really, and the Rakan too. But I didn't really see what you're going to be able to do with that. I would have rather have seen either a Sylas or a Syndra, because there are plenty of ults to take that Sylas can work well with. So overall, the Orianna was kind of meh, and then I was really not happy with their con pick, because I really do think that should have been a Thresh. And into Team Liquid's team comp, it just it kind of goes in and just dies, right? And we saw that a couple times.
We did.
On top of that, the thing is, you have to look at the bot lane itself during the lane phase with Jinx. If you have a con Jinx bot lane, you're just asking yourself to get picked apart. And Hansama, sure enough, was like, ha! Okay, we got Thresh Callista. Oh, this lane's done. And literally, Johnson was down, 30 CS by 10 minutes in?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Johnson stabilized at that point at the 10-minute mark, which is great. But, at that point, he was 1.2 or 1.4k gold down. That is an absurd amount of gold to be down at that point.
Well, yeah, the big problem I saw was that throughout the game, they were really funneling as much gold as they could to Hansama.
For sure.
He got the first plate in bot lane, and then they dropped Herald right around the 12-minute mark. They drop Herald, all the gold gets funneled to Hans. They're accelerating him. They're looking to play around that Callista. And they did it very well. I mean, credit to TL for doing it. But, I mean, the big issue is that, like, so, like, at 3... I've got it here at, like, the 350 mark, the first blood on Afro.
Yeah.
I mean, this was something that, like, really didn't, like, make me mad, but it, like, really annoyed me because they're in red side.
Fly's jungle.
Yeah, they're in Fly's jungle on bot side. They're on red side, bot side jungle. There is a ward in the bush that Afro can see over the wall, and he should be able to see that there's at least 2 of them and probably a third. And he keeps walking into that 3-man group, even though Johnson is too far away to do anything, and Tukui hasn't come down from mid lane close enough yet, and he just walks in, gets blown up. And Hans gets the kill, and that's also first blood. Huge lead for Hans, and he just takes that, presses the gas, and he just goes.
And that's what Hans Sama does with this Callista. Like, I was talking about it in my stream earlier. When I was watching LEC last year, particularly during summer, I think is when he pulled it out most. Hans Sama is a beast on this Callista. And I've always felt Callista is kind of not a weaker ADC, but you have to know exactly what you want to do with her if you're going to get powerful leads. You know, it's one of those where it's a high skill floor, but it pays off real well if you utilize it. And Hans Sama is the type of ADC that can use it. And I don't know if the analysts just didn't pick this up when they were researching TL, if they just didn't have enough time, if they don't know Hans Sama's history that well. But personally, when I saw the Varus ban over the Callista, I didn't like that because even though he's decent on Varus, like I said, every time I saw him on Callista, he is a beast. And then I also, while we're back to the bans, don't like that we let Corki through because you should just expect that's going to be first picked by blue side.
Yeah, Bjerg, Corki. I will say, so far in spring, there have only been 6 picks of Callista, and 4 bans. So right now across
in North America or across
all regions.
Okay.
So it's just not well known.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So
I would say that's not something that Fly would have probably had foresight on. It's just
right. So yeah. So that's why
recognized it was a good matchup.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. Less of like, oh, why didn't we ban this Callista, and more of like, I guess we just didn't really expect them to go for it.
For me, it's something like Fly probably shouldn't have opened, because I mean, if you think like ignore what TL's bot lane is, no matter what, just look at Jinx Rakan.
Yeah,
that's not a strong lane matchup, no matter how you look at it.
No.
Well, so, and if you're gonna ban out bot laners in red, in the second ban phase, and you ban out the Aphelios and you ban out the Varus, the Jinx is already taken. The Caitlyn and the Ziggs were banned long ago. There's not a lot of options left for Hans to take, and the Callista is just a classic counterpart to the Thresh. So maybe less tunneling on bot lane bans there is a remedy, but I think that's just like second guessing a little bit too hard.
For sure.
Did you have any other notes on bans there, or picks and bans there, Nox? Or did you
the only other thing I was gonna say was I was asking around a little bit and just like seeing what people thought of the Scion up top, and from my understanding is it actually does pretty well into the Akali. It holds its ground pretty well and just is solid, so overall I'm okay with it. I was also talking to Curly a little bit earlier today. I was like
vigorously shaking his head no.
I have thoughts on this one.
Yeah, and so because I was also wondering, was like, are there better picks than this though? And I was like, well, I mean, you're already kind of scaling a little bit. Like, what about the Ornn? And I asked around for some people, but people didn't really know how the Ornn into the Akali matchup goes, so I don't really know on that one, to be honest. But I think Ornn may have been another option. Overall, I think I was okay with it. He looked like he held himself in lane. I will say his actual team fighting with it was abysmal, but we can get into that later when we
that's
talk to the
my
actual
fundamental issue with the pick.
Yeah, and I definitely wanted to get into some of those Scion engages. I think
Scion disengages.
Disengages. There was a Scion disengage actually.
There were two. There were two.
I'm actually thinking of the one he. It's like toward almost to 20 minutes, and like Hans is just like slamming him with Callista spears, and he literally just ults back to his
He does it again later.
turret. Yeah, I was just kind of like, was that necessary? Or could you have just walked out of here? Anyway, so early game is rough. You know, by 5 minutes we're already behind. They got the first blood. Jose can't farm his jungle. Santorin basically pushes him out of his own jungle, clears it for him. And they got bot lane prio. They got top lane prio, so they get Ocean Drake and First Herald. And then things
mid was even basically.
Yeah, and then things like start like we're still down, but they're not like running away with it. We end up getting a kill around the 10-minute mark, 9:30, 9:40, I think.
Yeah, we picked Core JJ in their jungle.
Pick Core J in their jungle bot side. No Team Liquid members close enough to help. Takui gets the kill. Jose and Afro are there. And then at 10:35, Kumo actually comes decently close to getting a solo kill on the Akali. He's even in lane. He picked up a plate. I think Bradley had 1 or 2 plates in return, so they're not like... There's no real clear advantage there, I would say. And then things get out of hand. And yeah, Nox, I don't know if you have any notes on kind of like minutes 10 through 15, but things start getting a little rough in terms of them pulling away, I would say.
So the one main note that I really had was Jose started sacrificing some of his tempo plays around his jungle clears a little bit to try and like get certain objectives like the Drake, which, I mean, the team knows they're down at this point, right? And so I'm okay with like sacrificing certain plays around the map to go and get other plays that are probably more beneficial for the rest of your team rather than yourself. You can't really play too selfishly at this point. But you could tell it started like kind of stack a little bit. Like, so Jose's jungle timings were a little bit off because he went to go for the Drake, which in turn allowed TL to start making moves around other parts of the jungle. And you could tell, like, Fly was having to react to it little by little by little. And so Fly started getting small, not even small, like, they got, like, the Drake objective, for instance, right? But you could tell over time, TL was, like, pushing him little by little, like, you're going to mess up, you're going to mess up. And eventually, what ends up happening is that Fly doesn't really have anything else to do around the map. TL has, like, 3 lanes that are getting pressure outside of bot. And so Fly goes, all right, let's go cheese him bot. And that's where the Beard pick comes in, and we can talk about that here in a second. But that's kind of where things started to go downhill real fast. So,
before that, though, I think one small misplay that happened earlier is, I think it was before we were able to get that Drake. No, we get that Drake after the weird Beard play, which is confusing to me because I don't think we should have gotten it right. We got the Infernal Drake. Yeah, we got the Infernal Drake. I don't remember when that happens. But what I also know is we were able to scare them off of Herald earlier, right? Mm-hmm. And so you know how you're talking about how Scion was able to also almost 1v1 the Akali, right? And so Jose Dioto gets the Rift Herald. Kumo is pushed up, and we know that he can 1v1. And I personally feel like with Jose Dioto's Lee Sin, if they wanted to dive, they could. And this turret was at killed percent, like for a Herald, if you drop Shelly immediately. So in my brain, the play right there, because bot side's weak, mid is even, top is your best bet to get an advantage. Should have instantly rotated there, and we just don't. And then he just kind of gets those awkward camp timings, like you're saying, because he's trying to prevent, like he's trying to patch holes in the ship rather than spearhead the one point they might have. And I think that's something that ultimately comes down to bite us in the butt because it doesn't abuse Bradley early enough, and it allows him time to recover. It allows TL to make a lot of moves elsewhere, and we don't get that advantage that we could have had. It doesn't relieve any pressure anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. I think one issue that I think we saw consistently was the Corki for me was a huge problem because Bjerg just consistently put out so much poke that and was able to just do so much damage without really getting punished for it or hurt or anything really. There just wasn't. There weren't opportunities to take advantage of. Like we got, like we said, we found Core JJ in his own jungle and got the kill. It didn't really turn into anything. It's a kill, that's great, but you're not then turning that into, oh, now we're gonna look to take drag. Oh, we're gonna, look for XYZ. So, yeah, but so by minute 15. We were down about 2k, did not get a lot of plates. TL got first blood and Herald into first turret, and that money basically all went to Hansama. And I think by 15 he definitely had his mythic. And then
really early. It was even sooner than that. I was like 13.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was fast. So looking ahead, 17:30. I timestamped a lot of these observations so that if you want to go back and look at the game and see what we're talking about, you can, because I know people have asked about that. TL is taking Chem Tech Drake. Rip in peace, by the way. Rip in pieces. Chem Tech Drake. Bjerg is kind of like Bjerg is doing this weird thing where he's like. He's at the bot tier 1 turret, but also kind of in the fog of war, and he's like kind of like hovering like behind the wall a little bit, and like kind of like playing peekaboo somewhat. And we engage on him. Afro goes in with the Rakan. Bjerg Valkyries away.
So I don't know if you want, but I have a screenshot in our personal chat, Sandy, that you can show on stream real fast if you want.
I could do that. The only problem is we would lose the cameras for a moment. Hang on a moment.
Because I thought if you want, because I was just going to say this screenshot is so interesting because I don't know if like we lost, like if he just never clipped Bjerg or like you can kind of see right now on my camera a little bit right there, but hopefully Sandy.
Yeah, I'll
trippy to watch.
Like
I'll have this up in a moment.
It is pixels off. It is just pixels off. I think so. For me, I think Afro just straight up missed his flash ult onto Bjerg. Well, I remember the cast was talking about it when it happened, and it was just like, I don't think he got it in time. It was like, I'm looking.
Here's another thing. When I was watching the VOD, he was sitting in the bush for like a second and a half after the ult started.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasted like the first moments of his ult just sitting there.
Yeah. So you can see kind of there how close this really was, which is actually nutty. I'll take that down now so we can get back to our beautiful faces. So, really close. And then from there, the three fine folks who were at the Chemtech Drake, they peel off of it. They come down river. Bradley TP's in behind us, and all of a sudden we've got a 5-on-3, and we lose 2 for nothing, and they just walk back to Chemtech Drake and take it. And so they have 2 dragons at that point. And then, yeah, things just kind of like continue to deteriorate from that point.
So I do want to say really fast.
Go ahead.
If that play works, so imagine Afro actually does hit the clip with his ult, right? Bjerg is charmed. Kukui is right there. Lee Sin is right there.
He's dead.
Assuming, he should just be dead. So at that point, it's a 3v4 if Bradley decides to TP in. If not, it's a 3v3. And if Bradley does decide to TP in, Kumo also has his ult with a FlyQuest control ward in that bottom little bush in the river. Like, he can immediately just TP in, and it's back to a 4v4. I don't know how that 4v4 plays out, because you probably just burned a fair amount of cooldowns trying to kill Bjerg. but at least it's even at that point, right?
Yeah, you have to at least argue that, hey, it's a better chance than they had with a 5-on-3. So
yeah, in which case you're already down at that point. You know you're down at that point. You got to make these desperate plays, and sometimes if these desperate plays pay off, you got extra stuff coming afterwards where you're still at a disadvantage. So if anything, I still respect the play at the end of the day. I think honestly it was the right call. It just didn't pan out because Afro missed.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially after I watched it today, because I saw it go down on Saturday, and it was like, okay, that was upsetting. It could have been something. And then I watched today, and I saw the positioning, because like you got Sion and Bradley, you got Kumo and Bradley up top, both have TPs, and Kumo just never once uses his TP. He just holds on to it. So even if this works out, I don't know if he would have been ready to TP. And then it looks like Johnson is rotating from the mid lane down to the river, but you don't want your ADC to be alone where the bot lane and jungler are already in the river waiting for you. So positioning-wise, no matter how this plays out, I think FlyQuest loses in the long run. It's just if we get a TP and we get the charm off, we might get 2 or 3 kills if we're lucky before we ultimately fail the fight.
Yeah. So rough fight, not a good time. And then now we're gonna get into a moment that was very painful for me to watch.
Jose.
So yes, that whole fight. So it's around 21 minutes. Team Liquid sieging mid. Lots of poke that we can't really do anything about. The Corki, even the Callista, really, poking out. Core catches Jose with the Thresh hook. Instantly dead. He just gets blown up. Kumo, God bless his soul, teleports in from TL's Raptor camp. So he teleports to TL's Raptor camp. Charges up the Sion ulti, and goes through the field goalposts. And if you don't understand what I mean by goes through the field goalposts, he proceeds to not hit anyone. No one is there, by the way, when Kumo, Johnson and Afro aren't really there at the fight yet. Tukui is in the middle of his teleport to our mid lane turret. So it's a completely uncoordinated engage. I understand the call of like, oh yeah, Kumo TP in, but he went too early. And I think that's pretty clear to see. He went too early. Yeah. Tukui's not there. Johnson and Afro are not there. We were not ready for that fight. The fight goes on. Kumo dies. He does get a zombie kill, while he's in his passive's going off, back on Santorin. But the rest of them have to run, and Bradley ends up chasing down Johnson. So it's a 3-for-1. Meanwhile, Hans just pushes down our mid turret and gets more gold. And this is kind of something I wanted to talk about just in general, because we could keep going about this game, but I mean, at this point, the game's pretty much like over. And when I was rewatching it, I was like, all right, well, this is the moment where it's like, okay, Hans is way ahead. We can't really engage anymore because of the Corki poke and whatnot. And there were not only this time, but there were a couple other times where engages and our timings and coordinations were just very off. And it reminded me of the interview that Afro did on broadcast after the second set of games the week before, when we won both our games, when we beat 100 Thieves and then we beat Golden Guardians Academy. And how he had talked about how the day before, or the Friday, their timings were off, their coordination was off, and they just, they were just much better about it that day. Felt like we went back to
That's exactly
the
what I
problems that we saw on Friday, where just the timing is off. You know, the calls are coming in for, hey, TP in, engage, and just no one's there, and so then someone else dies, and then it's like, okay, well, it's like the GIF or the meme from Community where Troy comes in holding the pizza or whatever,
The pizza box.
and he walks in and like everything's on fire and a mess, and it's like, and that's Tukui TPing into mid there after Kumo has come in, and like it's just what's frustrating about it for me, because like this happens a couple other times, at the final team fight of the game. Afro Jose actually got an insane. It was actually insane because he Lee Sin Q's a minion, goes to it, and then I think I don't remember if he flashed or then like ward hopped behind Hans and then kicks Hans. But then of course Hans stopwatches, Core gets him out. It's whatever. I mean, mechanically it was brilliant. We just didn't have the damage to finish off Hans. Afro then comes in from behind. He's coming up from mid-river.
But he's a little late on that.
But he's late, and Johnson, at that fight, this is the game-ending fight, he's already at half health from poke from Bjergsen. So he can't even come in and start doing damage because the Corki will just blow him up. So Afro kind of dies for nothing. Bradley and Bjerg then like eviscerate the backline, and it's GG from there. And so, and like I get at that point in the game, you're behind and you kind of need to make an engage. But even so, you still need to make an engage that like connects and is on time, and you at least like do something instead of people just like going in one by one and then just dying for nothing. So that's that's my little like timing, engages, coordination rant. I'll let you guys, have your piece now if you want.
You know what I want to go on? And this is something that happens in both games. FlyQuest's alt usage was not effective. The Scion ults, so like when I broke down that fight in my stream today, number one, because of Afro Mu being late, because for some reason he gets 2 hits on a control ward in the river, which delays him. If he doesn't do those hits, I think he gets there in time to be in the thick of it, get some knockouts, get some charms off, sway the fight a little bit. For some reason, and like, so in the chaos of that kick, Tukui's shockwave is used, and I don't know where it is. And then somewhere Johnson used his rocket. And now here's the thing. Fun fact about Jinx Rocket, which I mentioned earlier, is the 2 things to actually get real damage out of that is missing HP and long distance travel. Now, obviously, he's too close to get the maximum distance, so you want at least some low health bars. Most people, aside from the golden Hansama, are at full HP. So the only one you can get that 35% missing health to actually be useful is untargetable. So wherever he used his ult, useless. And then Kumo just doesn't ult until he has to run away. Whereas, personally, I think the moment that Hans is out of Golden would have been the time to try and turn around, use that Scion ult, get some CC laid down, so that then maybe Afromu, even though he's late, can continue that chain and we can try to unload more damage. Like, it's just very ineffective ult usage all around from FlyQuest, aside from the kick from Jose Diego.
Yeah. All right, Nox. I mean, what do you got? How are you feeling about all that?
So I've been like rewatching the fight over and over while you guys have been talking. For both fights, I think my biggest issue I had with the fights was mainly Kumo's smash. There is 3 abilities on all of TL's comp that can interrupt that smash. One is Santorin's Q, which takes a moment to charge up, and you can absolutely get your cast off in time, or you can cut it short before he gets a chance to do so. 2 is Hansama's ult, which okay, if you're getting ulted by Hansama's ult onto a tank like him, that's worth it. And then, 4 abilities. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting that there's 2 on Thresh. But basically, there were 3 separate times this game where Kuma was charging up a smash, and then Core just flayed him. And that was it. That was probably like my biggest thing I had over and over and over again. I actually don't mind his ults so much. It's kind of frustrating that he wasn't able to land any of them, but more than anything, they were just kind of used to get himself into the fight. Could they be more effective? Yes, absolutely. But I didn't have a huge issue with the actual choice of using them. Yeah, the smash thing was probably what killed me the most over and over again. On top of the fact that Takui also missed, I think it was 2 very crucial ultimates this fight.
Oh, he missed a couple.
Yeah, so I was getting very big Palafox vibes from last year. It's very frustrating. If you're going to pick an Orianna, you have to land your ults. Simple as that.
I mean, here's the thing. He does land them a good amount of the times, just not today. Or
it was just not that day, yeah. But yeah, he did not land his Orianna ults. It's very crucial if you're going to be picking Orianna that you have to hit your ult, because everything else in that kit for Orianna, don't get me wrong, it's useful, but like your big thing is that ultimate. So if you're not going to be landing your ultimates in 2 crucial team fights, yeah, it doesn't really matter all that much. Mm-hmm. Those are kind of my main things, or basically Takui missing his ults and then Kumo burning his smashes in front of Core JJ, who just played him away without any issue at all. The only other thing I wanted to highlight for this game was the Drake setup on the very last Drake, sorry, not the last Drake, the 4th Drake. So TL's 3rd, the 4th overall. There was a brief period of time where there's about 35 to 40 seconds before the Drake is spawning. And FlyQuest actually has control of the river. Mm-hmm. And so, as far as I'm aware, there's not really any reason why Fly gives this up. I kind of just see Afro and Johnson kind of move their way up into their side of the red jungle, and they kind of let TL just sneak back in.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys, you can't be giving away with that access, because then you're already fighting from a disadvantage from TL, who owns the river at that point, and they're just gonna control the Drake. You have to come to them for the fight, and it's far easier to make the fight work for you when they come to you. So yeah, that was kind of my one thing, and they kind of do it in the second game too a little bit. Is their river control and Drake setups, they kind of let it lapse sometimes. So I'm hoping coaching kind of goes over that a little bit and says, hey, when you guys have this, you look at your timers. You need to make sure you keep control of this area, so that way the team comes to you. We'll get into it in the second game, but there's like an actual, like I'll screenshot it and I'll send it to you. There's a little thing where I'm like, Takui goes for a wave, and I'm like, should he or should he not go for this wave? And I want you guys to look at it and tell me what you think, okay? But when we'll go over it when we get there.
Yeah, definitely. Seem to have lost the cameras again. Don't know what's going on, but we'll
Damn, but look at that face I'm making.
I've noticed you've been doing some interesting editing. what's that all about, bud?
Me or
you? Yeah. I noticed things moving around.
I was trying to like fix some stuff, but anyway, we'll yeah. I've completely lost the window.
The Sandy cam?
Yeah, the windows. So
oh no.
It's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. We'll just keep rolling, and it's okay because we only need audio, right?
Yeah.
So game 2?
Game 2, I think this game we can spend
a
little bit less time on. Yeah, we're all gonna disappear for a bit, but we'll all be back. Sorry to say.
Well, you might not see our beautiful faces. You still get to hear all of our wonderful.
Yeah, hit the camera. I think hitting the camera might not do what we want it to do. Okay, so game 2. Nox, if you don't mind kind of like taking the lead here while I figure out the camera issues. So, just like the quick TLDR of what happens. So, Bwipo comes back in. and Ayla replaces core JJ, so now it's a Bwipo and then a Hans Ayla bot lane, which honestly doesn't make it any more or less difficult. It's like Ayla's still very good, and you could argue that Bwipo is, he's definitely better than Bradley. So it's a trade of some sort, but I think the biggest part of interest here is our the Diana Yasuo picks, and then I mean even the Bard definitely. So yeah, I mean how did you two feel about the Diana Yas combo coming out?
So for me, I actually don't mind our draft outside of the order that we did it in. The actual comp itself is very, very good. But basically what ends up happening is we first pick Diana, right?
Yeah.
And that's a high interest because of the fact that we've pretty much banned Diana every game we've played in this tournament. So the one time it doesn't go banned in our games, we immediately snag it first pick blue side. So that should signal that we have either a lot of practice on it or that we just think it's very, very strong right now. One of those two things. I'm not sure which. TL immediately follows up with the Xin Zhao Jinx, which, okay. And then we go ahead and follow it up with the Jin and Yasuo. And so it's like, okay, very apparent at this point, we're playing for like a wombo combo comp. Like we're going for team fights, like Diana goes in, gets her ultimate off, Yasuo goes in, gets his ultimate off, and it's just everyone gets obliterated all in one go. Which works, by the way. Like it was played earlier today in the amateur tournament. It was played earlier last week in another amateur tournament. I think it was also played by another LCS team at one point. Or, may have been LEC. There's some other major league that's played it at some point that I've seen, and it worked wonders, right? So this comp can absolutely work. The problem becomes the fact that you're third picking Yasuo, who has plenty of counters and plenty of ways to get punished. And same goes for Diana. Like, Diana's jungle clearing speed and, like, jungle control levels are not that high on the list of junglers. And so the Xin Zhao comes in, and Santorin's like, I am going to wreck your jungle, buddy.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what happened, basically. But we can get into that more here in a second. The Bard and Gwen follow-ups are absolutely fine. I have no issues with them whatsoever. I actually kind of like the Bard a lot for pairing with the Jhin. I think it's great. And it can also even help set up the Diana and Yasuo. Basically, like, Bard hits a huge ult where everyone's grouped up in stasis. Mm-hmm. Diana walks in, ult, bam, Yasuo, bam. It's just one big giant wombo combo.
Well, then Aphromoo is just a beast on the Bard. It's a comfort pick for him. I love watching him play Bard. It is so beautiful. Like, that man knows how to use his ult like no one else.
Yes. So overall, the comp itself is fine, but the problem is just the early priority on the Yasuo. It should have been something that should have been saved for like B4 or B5 pick, in which case, I mean, if TL really wants to go out of the way to ban it, because don't get me wrong, this comp's been played in major leagues and also in amateur tournaments, but it's also not super popular. I don't know if TL is going to go out of the way to give respect to a Yasuo ban, right? So I think it's something that probably should have been held on to until B4, B5. And even if it does get banned, you still have other AD options like Lucian, who I think is still a more than acceptable pick for mid lane right now. And Tukui does play it. He's had some good games on it back on the LFL. So with that said, Bjergsen backs it up with the LeBlanc on third pick for red side, and it's just like, oh, crap. And you get into the game, and immediately Santorin and Bjergsen are like, you have no mid lane priority, you have no jungle priority. Whippo's up top, and I think it's probably the first time Kumo's been actually just lane gapped, period, this whole tournament, which is unfortunate. So there was no top lane priority, and the only thing that really was going for us the entire time was the bot side, which proves my point from the last game of Jinx Rakan is a terrible bot lane because we ended up getting a 2v2 kill out of it. So,
but we then proceed to not really get anything else onto Johnson out of it, and so
well, for me, yeah, that was the frustration for me, where we had a nice level 1 in top river, got the first blood on the Jhin, and then at 3 minutes, bot lane kills Hans. I think Afro got that kill. Yep. But, you know, very ahead, winning that lane for sure, and just nothing comes of it. At 4 minutes, Santorin and Bwipo just kind of screw over Jose's jungle. At 4 minutes, Santorin comes back to mid, Afro comes to help, and it's a 3-for-0 double kill for Xin Zhao. And at that point, it's like, okay.
That was a messy fight too, because I don't.
Well, and then by 6 minutes, Tukui has basically lost lane, and it's like it's kind of over for him. He can't really play against that LeBlanc anymore.
So something, and I do want to like point out, like this was very well played by TL because basically, Santorin's in the blue side top jungle, and Bjerg has just gotten the lane into a perfect freeze. It is like right by his turret, but the turret's not firing, so it's not shoving the lane back, leaving Tukui in a terrible spot. And basically, Jose goes, "Well, I've cleared my jungle, and Tukui needs help. I have to go mid to help get this lane shoved in, so that way it hits the turret and bounces back towards Tukui, and the lane resets, and Tukui can get a nice even lane state." Santorin goes, "Oh, I know exactly what you're going to do," and basically poaches him like just right there on the edge, waiting for Jose to comes in. Jose comes in to help get that shove, and immediately it's like, go. And granted, it kind of made the whole situation worse that like Johnson and Afro kind of straggled in late a little bit and handed over a third kill. That was just kind of bad, period. But at least for the 2v2 mid jungle, like it was just perfectly played by Santorin and Bjerg from the setup, from the get-go. So, and that kind of honestly just goes back to draft that Yasuo cannot lane well against the LeBlanc, at least early on.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's just difficult. We couldn't really contest dragons throughout this game at all. We kind of just like gave them up, and eventually we have to fight for fourth one because otherwise they'll get sold.
Yeah,
and then
that does not go
and
well.
then they get sold at 22:30 because 30 seconds before that Tukui died. I will say the Diana Yasuo combo did work several times, and I do want to point that out and say, hey, because I know I just like went on about bad timings and engages in the last game. I felt like this game looked better, especially when you have a combo like Diana and Yasuo, where like the entire point of it is to have a good engage. They succeeded. Like they hit it. Now, is it like a really easy one to hit because it's like, they go up in the air and then you just press R and it's done? I mean, yes, but like they still succeeded on it, and that was good to see an improvement from the first game.
Now here's
my
thing with it though is then the rest of the team's ability to use those good Diana Yasuo moments. And one I particularly think of, and I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but is that really rough Baron fight where it's an awesome engage.
Right at the end, yeah.
Awesome engage from them. But something that I have issue with before all this is Johnson's ults that entire game made no sense to me whatsoever. Because I want to say there were at least 4 or 5 ults he did that were like, there was no fight about to happen. I don't know if he was just trying to poke them off or what, but ultimately he doesn't get much out of it because like there's one, he opens it up and he unloads 3 shots onto the Rakan, which finally pokes his shield, and then he uses that 4th shot, and it doesn't even hit. And then there's another one where he only hits 1 shot altogether. Like there's just a lot that I'm like, why are you ulting at these times at these places? Like, and then now that the ult's burned and TL knows the ult's burned and they don't have to worry about that crit shot, they're able to just group up and do these team fights because they're like, all right, a decent part of Jin's kit that could screw us over is gone. And then particularly with that Baron fight, right before that Diana Yasuo moment, he for some reason is ulting the river, but he too far away because they're doing the Baron, and they know they're doing the Baron, but the edge of his ult won't hit any part of the Baron pit, and Ayla isn't even in it. Like he's just blocking off the river, and he's too far away, and so there's no one he can possibly hit with. And it's so like just don't know what that was all about, but that was something that really made me upset while I was watching the.
You know what also makes me upset? Losing the cameras again.
I think at this point, the cameras are done for.
We'll get there eventually. I have no idea what's.
They can listen to our voices. That's all that matters.
I have absolutely no clue what is going on. Oh, hey, wait, they're back again.
Except for you. Oh wait, there we go.
We're all back. I'm not going to question it anymore. So that was that game. So 0-2, it's over. I mean, to just say one final follow-up point about that Baron fight is that we were just so far behind that even though the combo works, we just can't do enough damage before they just can turn around and blow us up. So, all right. That was the FlyQuest games from this past weekend. We've got a couple quick segments from here on out. First one that I want to hit. Who was the lock-in MVP for FlyQuest? Cast your votes now. Kumo, Jose, Tukui, Johnson, Afromu. Based on our pre-show banter, I think I know what the answers are going to be. Gentlemen, what's the move? Who's the lock-in MVP for us?
What's the move, you might say?
What's the who might chime in, if you will, with
This isn't Golden Guardians, dude.
No, it was supposed to be a bard. It's supposed to be a bard joke, okay?
I know.
It's supposed to be a bard joke. Afromu, I believe, is our lock-in MVP.
100%.
In the moments that we did have great macro, in the moments that we did have great engages, Afromu really shined. And I want to shout that out. And I think that is an encouraging sign to have veteran leadership like him on the team now. So
I was going to say, Road brings up a good point of what Core JJ tweeted about Afro.
Yeah.
About how Hansama has never felt the same pressure as Afromu on bar in the LEC.
Yeah.
And tweeted in 4 different languages, too.
It's crazy.
I think they translated it to Turkish as well at one point. That was pretty funny. But
Afro's MVP.
Yeah. I don't know if either of you have any further things you want to say about that.
I mean, just like you said, when our macro was on point, he was just always shining. And like even particularly on the Bard, like as an individual player, not just as a team player, he's able to utilize Bard's kit to like set up Johnson well. Or his teammates in general, and then even if he's doing like some sneaky deep warding, or maybe he's in a position where most supports would get caught up, he's able to perfectly like get out of there with a magical journey. He knows how to maximize his kit on Bard, and then just overall, I think he's got a really good understanding of when to go in and to have the guts and when to commit.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, things were not much better for the Academy team this past week. 2 0-2 defeats. I don't think any of us really had a chance to watch much of the Academy team. But what I do want to say here is it's still very early. This was literally week 1 of Academy. Brand new team. Brand new players in some instances. I'm not going to start panicking. I'm not about to throw in the towel and be like, this team is a wash. These players are bad. It's about developing these players. It's about building these players up, making them better, getting the next generation of North American talent on board. So we'll have to keep watching. We'll definitely be tuning in to see how they do. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to say about 04 Academy start.
I mean, Nux, I don't know about you, but for me, even though it was like kind of rough and I didn't feel like we were all together, I think it's just something to kind of be expected from a bunch of young players playing together for the first time, with like the oldest on the squad being Tomo and Diamond, and they still, obviously have some to work on. But personally, I was also really happy with Tomo showing, because he definitely looked really good, just as good as I remember him last season. And Philip, Yuji, and Spearx had their moments, and so I think they just need to work with their coaching staff on how to like utilize their skills together and become more of a team. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Knox.
No, I would agree. I think overall, from the game and a half that I saw, basically, because I was like, what? I forget which game it was I was watching, but one of the games at work was like, work got busy, and I was like, okay, I can't watch anymore. But from the game and a half that I saw, it was just lots of unchecked aggression, which I'm okay with, especially for like early on in the season. And it's like these brand new amateur players that are coming up, or not even amateur, like collegiate players, right? Um, you got these like just lots of unchecked aggression. It is far easier to tone down the aggression than it is to teach a player to be aggressive. So that's already a good start for me. That's a good baseline. Especially because for me it was like we didn't really have any VODs of Yuji at all. And then Spear Axe had some, but I mean, there were a lot, right? So for me, seeing the like just lots and lots of aggression, and there were moments where they even had leads in the game, but then they kind of threw it away by like, oh, well, let's go for more, let's punish them even more, and just not really kind of taking account of the other team. I'm fine with it. I'm cool with it. Hopefully, they continue to dial it down just a little bit, little by little, over the course of the coming weeks, and they can work on their timings a little bit more and working on like working as a team and actually taking account of the other team's cooldowns and positioning. And I think over time they'll probably start to shape up to be something good. I'm not expecting really anything this split. I think probably maybe at the end of summer they'll probably start making their way up the rankings. So there's probably going to be some ugly games in the future from these guys, but I have a lot of patience for them because the thing is that I have a lot of faith in their baseline.
Yeah, I think that's good. All right, final segment. Well, second to last, but they're both pretty small segments, I think. What is the vibe? What's the feeling? So I think next week we'll be doing a bit more of like a spring preview. You know, now that we've got all the data from the various teams, maybe some power rankings. You know, those are always fun to do. But like, for one, I don't know in terms of a like, do I feel better, worse, or the same? I think I feel like mostly the same, but slightly better. Like if it's like a notch to the left on like more optimistic, or a notch to the
right.
Yeah, notch to the right on feeling more optimistic about the LCS team. I think unlike last year, where if we won, it kind of felt a bit like a miracle at times. The games that we won in lock-in looked really good. And if we can convert that to a level of consistency instead of the inconsistency that we saw over the last 2 weeks, I think there's some good ceiling available for this team. And I think the floor also gets raised for this team. So I'm feeling slightly more optimistic. Curly, I mean, how are you? What's your vibe? What's the flight check? What's the mood check for Curly about this team right now?
I'm critically optimistic because like you said, I see a way for like our floor to rise. I see the way we can go farther than expected. I can see us like this is going to be kind of a Hail Mary, but I could see us if we really get on top of our stuff, performing at the top 6 level, and if we perform above expectations, even top 4. And granted, that's like really getting our stuff together. But we have to do a lot of ironing out. Like, you might want the dry cleaners get that shit permanently pressed. Like, we have a lot of work to do to get to that point, because there were a lot of glaring issues. But the thing that makes me more hopeful isn't just the performance, particularly from Sunday, but I go back to our interview with Sharks and Nick, that I trust that the coaching staff will be able to take these 2 weeks, I believe we have, to really figure out, all right, how do we make sure we're using our alts effectively? How do we make sure we are coordinating our time? How do we make sure we keep control of the river et cetera, and as long as we do that, I do see a world where we reach that top 6 and make both spring and summer playoffs.
Yeah. Knox, how are you feeling?
Okay. Pessimistic Knox is coming out. I'm sorry.
Oh, baby.
It's got to happen.
After our showing on Saturday, I understand.
So let's look at the group stage first.
Mm-hmm.
We played a TSM Academy and lost. We played a Golden Guardians Academy, and it was a fairly even game that we did win. We played a Cloud9 Academy and lost. Or hybrid Cloud9, whatever. And then we played 100 Thieves, who I think it's becoming a little apparent that they're kind of all over the place right now, right?
Yeah, maybe they're not as good as everyone thought they would be.
And don't get me wrong, that 100 Thieves game, FlyQuest played well. That is the best game they have played so far this season. The fundamentals were there, the timings were there. That was a good game from FlyQuest. But at the same time, I don't think 100 Thieves gave the full pushback that they could have offered that they normally do. With that said, then you go look at the Team Liquid series that we just had, and it becomes very apparent that even with a roster that has not been solidified yet, when you bring world-class talent like Hansama and Core JJ together, along with Bjergsen and Santorin, like, it is a huge uphill battle. And even with Bradley looked good in that match, too, in my opinion.
He did.
And then you swap him out, you bring Whippo in, another world-class talent. You bring Ayla in, who, looking like a very solid support, it doesn't really change all that much. At the end of the day, like, I'm not expecting to be competing for Worlds this year or anything like that, but, like, you've got to show a little more resistance to teams like that, even if you end up losing. The games this weekend weren't, like, stomps, but, like, it was pretty much over pretty quickly.
I mean, I would call the second Team Liquid game a bit of a stomp.
Very much so.
Yeah. Yeah. Either way, just, I think I'm not expecting much right now. I'm hoping the guys can slowly figure it out little by little, hopefully. I will say, at least lane by lane wise, I think we look better, but holy hell, we have got to get the coordination together.
Yeah.
Which, the one upside, the silver lining that I will lay out for everyone is that was the one thing Nick said he built this team around, was the ability to be able to coordinate and play together as a team. So hopefully that's what happens and they click eventually, but it is not right now. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm not feeling very confident, hoping to be proven wrong in the coming weeks.
Fair enough. All right, it's time for the Smash update. Real quick. And then we're closing out the show. Not much to say. Genesis has been postponed, I believe, till April. In the meantime, I believe Ludwig Ogren, notorious YouTube streamer now, is throwing a pretty decently sized Smash Melee tournament. I think details are on his Twitter profile. I think Kodorin will be playing. If you want to see what Kodorin's up to, it's Kodorin SSB on Twitter, Kodorin SSB. I believe he's also doing some like local tournaments. I think he won a local tournament recently, the other day, which is great to see. He's still very, very good. We know that. But yes, Genesis postponed till April. Watch out for that Ludwig tournament, which Kodorin should be playing in, which is very excellent. Before we close out the show, want to thank Road Roller for giving out another 5 another 5 gifted subs from Road Roller. Thank you very much. Our good friend of the show, Mr. Road. We appreciate everything you do. May Tim Kench not haunt your dreams tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode of Flight Check. Obviously, we will still be following LCS lock-in action this weekend as semis and finals come to a close. So you can be sure to follow us on Twitter for all of our instant reactions and thoughts. You can catch the show at Flight Check Crew, myself at SantosDB, Nox at Noxwar with 2 R's, and Curly at Curly_QQ_. Make sure to hop into our Discord as well. There should be some links in the chat from various times where all kinds of esports discussion and otherwise takes place. And like I said earlier, if you missed any part of this episode, the VOD will be up on YouTube tonight or tomorrow morning, and the audio version of this episode should go up on Spotify, Overcast, Breaker, Google Podcasts, other various audio platforms either tomorrow or Wednesday. If you're listening to that right now and would like to catch this show live, we broadcast the episode every Monday night, pretty much every Monday night, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here at twitch.tv/FlightCheckCrew. Nox, any final words, shout-outs, plugs before we wrap up?
Go watch Proving Ground qualifiers. I'm going to be reffing tomorrow night. I don't know which team yet because matches are still being played because it'll be quarterfinals. Also, fun fact is I'm allowed to referee the grand finals of Proving Ground qualifiers, so I'm actually very hyped about that.
Nice.
Very nice.
Outside of that, go watch Under Talk Pod. They may be having a bit of a depressy spaghetti podcast. So if you're down in the
Depressy spaghetti.
and you want to be down at the dumps some more along with us, go watch them and go support them tonight as well.
Hold on. Let me tell you what the went from Cole. Oh boy, Jordan. Did 100 Thieves play this weekend, or was it just LA Thieves? Right?
You know, Cole, it was it was just LA Thieves, I think. I don't think the LCS team played at all.
So talk trios happening now.
Yeah, we're just skipping 100 talk and going straight to going straight to.
No, but all seriousness, 100 Thieves this weekend not looking good, dropping 2 games to Dignitas. Anyway, enough of that. You'll get it in 20 minutes.
Yep. We actually just stole their script for their opening. Curly, how about you? Any shout-outs, plugs, notes before we wrap
couple
up?
Good shout-outs. Yeah, shout out to Nox for swinging by my VOD review earlier as well. Anyone else who swung by. Really enjoyed it. It's fun for me. Like last week was a little rough. Today felt very good about it. And I'm going to keep that going forward throughout the split when we play games. Also, shout out to Isa from FlyQuest. He tagged me on Twitter. I don't remember who it was, but like someone said something about like, hey, tag your favorite broadcasters or like league content creators, like casters or whatever. And they tagged me, so I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe we'll get somewhere off of that. Yeah, I think those are a couple of my shout-outs for the week.
Sweet. My one shout-out on Hotline League tonight, I believe La Tigress, Gabby, from the LCS broadcast, is going to be the guest. So please be sure to go there and support her because we love having women in the esports scene and we want to see more of it. So be sure to, let the broadcast know that you want more of that. And also more Mark Z. Bring back free Mark Z from Riot Jail. Just give us more Mark Z. We will be back.
Part of me actually, he's been on more content lately since he's.
It's really funny how he kind of has been on more content recently, but I'm sure that'll regress at some point. We'll be back next week to review the end of Lock-In and do a preview of the spring LCS season. So be sure to come back next week for that. But for now, stay safe out there. Do not forget to hit the head on the nail, and we will see you all very, very soon. Adios.
Have a good one, guys.
Peace, y'all.